Hello. How are you all today? It's another really gorgeous day here in Bakersfield, California. I think the high is in like the 80s today. Um, Welcome to my live stream, and today we're going to be talking about pockets. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about changing gauge from across a spreadsheet. Like if you're doing your knitter's graph paper and you're using, you have one gauge here and you have a stitch pattern that has a different gauge. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So let's see who's on here. A whole bunch of people already. Yay! So nice to see you. So 37 Vega Lira from California. Graciela Savoy from Argentina. Hello, hola. Monique Van Heemstra from the Netherlands, Linda Annabal from British Columbia, Elaine Leah from Maryland, Francoise from Lyon, France, Grace Leifeng Richardson, it doesn't say where she's from, but hello and welcome to our live stream. Fatima from Portugal, Arlette from Canada, Elizabeth Nielsen from Sweden, Lizanne from Benicia, California, Susan Day from Newcastle, Washington, Mary Inman from Atlanta, Georgia, Judy Snyder from Bakersfield, hello Judy, Sherry Cornick from Southeast Michigan, hi Sherry, Stephanie Hall Dougherty from Troy, Virginia, Judith Andres from Michigan, Katharina from Germany, Kathy Earhart from Pittsburgh, Kat B from Northern California, Sylvina from Maryland, Debbie Newland from Bakersfield, hi Debbie, Luann Hendricks from Missouri, Nick Scuba from the UK, Bradley Trahan from Peachtree City, Georgia, Kayan Tong from New Jersey, Moni Dawson from Savannah, Georgia, Sue McVicker, Diana Danko, Kay Baker from Sonoma, Diane Joel from Martinez, and more. Hello and welcome to my live stream. Today I'm going to have a special guest and he's going to show up about 1:15. So he's got other duties till then and then he'll be popping in here. That's Franco. Frank Jernigan from franco.com. I think you're going to really enjoy seeing him. And I also want to update you a little bit. This isn't the ITAG sis, but what's going on with the boot camp classes. So we just finished a series of Boot Camp 1, Boot Camp 2, and Boot Camp 3 with one group of people. They went through 30 weeks of instruction, and I'm going to miss them so much. We had our graduating class last Tuesday, and but I'll be seeing them again because I'm going to do a boot camp 4 for graduates of boot camp 3, and the other group graduated from boot camp 2 and started boot camp 3 this week. So they started right out with learning how to seam, and that's a lot of fun. And then this coming Tuesday, we're starting an entirely new batch of boot camp 1 boot campers. And I'm really looking forward to that. It's so fun to meet a new group of people and, you know, see what that turns into. It's going to be really fun. So the ITAG sis is coming along. We're almost, I think that you could start considering starting to knit pretty soon. I would start with the back. Remember, we're knitting this in pieces, so it's going to be a back, a front, or 2 fronts if you're knitting a cardigan, 1 front if you're knitting a pullover, your 2 sleeves. So the back is a safe place to start, and it gives you a good idea of what your fabric's going to look like and whether you're on target. And you may have a little bit of waist shaping in it, but there's not going to be any special neck opening. And when you get up to the set-in sleeve portion and the shaping, that's where you can try that, get started on that on the back. We still have more things to talk about that involve the front, but it gives you a chance to start knitting while we talk about the things on the front. And one of the things we're going to talk about for the front are pockets, which we're going to start talking about today. I haven't sent out any updates yet to the pattern. I'm lagging behind. I will admit to you, I am lagging behind. But I wish I could take my camera in the other room. My sunroom is completed. My furniture got moved in yesterday, so my living room's not so congested. Things are getting moved around, and there's less chaos going on in my life. They're going to finish painting my bedrooms, 2 bedrooms today, and that furniture, which is in my living room also, will get moved back into the bedrooms, and I'll start having actually some space to work and some space in my brain too for working. So that's what's happening there. So let's go to my hands. I want to talk about pockets, okay? So I learned, look at that. I made graph paper. You can see the lines. This is regular quarter scale graph paper. So if you were going to make a pocket, I would start designing it on this type of thing. And I'm going to talk about several different styles of pockets today. So the one that I like, which is my pocket that I made, I start out, I have the top of the pocket, whatever width you want to make it. Let me use a different color pen so you can see this better. Here's the top of the pocket. And then it comes down one side. This is the meat towards the middle of your body. So if this were a cardigan, this would be near the edge where you're going to be picking up stitches. And then I have a diagonal portion and then a portion that comes straight down. This part is open from here to here so that you can put your hand in it. And this is an inset pocket that comes down this way. So there are pockets that you can do that are like this, where they're diagonal and like this. And there are pockets that are shaped like this, where the opening is here and the opening is here. This is a combination of these two pockets. So you have the deepness of this style of pocket, but the diagonal opening of this style of pocket. And this is my original design. And I have it written up so that you can work it from the bottom up or the top down. And so these directions will be written. They are included in the knit along in the tutorial. So that's one style of pocket, and I don't really have a name for it. I just call it Suzanne's pocket, okay? And other types of pockets are where you can have a square and the pocket is open here. Or you can have a square and have the pocket open here. And all of these pockets can be worked either on the front of the garment or on the back side of the garment. For example, if let's say you've already knitted your whole garment and you want to add one of these pockets to it, you can either add it to the front, like an afterthought pocket, almost invisibly, or you can add it to the wrong side of the fabric. And I have several videos, which Diana can mention in the timestamps that I'll link here, that show you how to create the whoops. For some reason I froze. Are you still there? I froze. I hope I didn't lose you. Okay, let me know if you can see me. I think I froze for a minute. So what I want to tell you is you can add these pockets as afterthought, like a patch pocket, but invisibly. And I have videos that show how to do this, and I'm including instructions how to do this in the tutorial. I'm not going to show them here because it's in the tutorial. But so you have these different styles of pockets. So you can work with, for example, this pocket. Let's say you don't want it to be visible on the front of the work at all. Then you would pick up stitches along both edges here. You would pick up stitches here and you would work it up like this on the wrong side of the fabric, and it does not show through to the right side of the fabric. And then the opening needs to be created on the right side of the fabric, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Or You can add this by picking up stitches along the right side of the fabric, picking up stitches on the right side of the fabric here and knitting up and then binding off here to create your pocket opening. Excuse me, sorry. Same thing here on this one, you would pick up stitches here, pick up stitches here. Excuse me, I gotta get a drink of water, I'll be right back. Sorry about that, but I needed to get a drink of water. I was choking. Okay, so here you would pick up stitches along the bottom, pick up stitches here, and then work, but you would leave an opening here, but you would connect to the back to create an extension of the lining of the inside of the pocket. So all of this will be written out in the tutorial. And pockets are awesome. Let me show you one. This is my pocket. And I've knitted it on a lot of sweaters. It's my favorite. Although I've done other types of pockets as well. So this is the pocket. Let me put it underneath the microscope here. This is the pocket. So here's the opening. And over here, see there's nothing that shows on the inside. Absolutely nothing. It does not interrupt the back of the fabric at all. And this is what I'm going to be teaching in this tutorial, how to do this pocket plus the other pockets so that they're invisible. And you can see it connects here. The pocket goes all the way down in here. And also how to make a design on it. That's in the tutorial and how to do this. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this on graph paper right now. So I have some knitter's graph paper here. And I'm going to draw this type of a pocket on it. So I'm just going to make it diagonal. Just freehand here. This pocket. We have to keep an eye on the time because Frank's going to be on here. So if you were knitting this, you would probably be making decreases along here, right? To bring the fabric in. But if you want to put, let's say you want to put that cable design on here, then you can't do the decreases along the edge. What you do is you move the decreases to over here. So then this part of the fabric is actually going in this direction. So how would you chart that? Because it's obviously not easy to chart it like this. So what you would do is, let me get another piece of paper out here. You would have your pocket. You would chart this part right here without the cable. So let's do that. So you would have here just 2 inches, that's 2 inches. And this would be charted here. And so you would have your decreases here along this edge. Then over here, you would have, I kind of didn't leave enough space, but you would have your cable here. These would be no stitches, only this would be moved over this way because I didn't give enough space. Let me do another one. When I do things freehand. Okay, let's do it like this. So we do this, the 2 inches. So these would be the no stitches here, the grayed out. And you would have your cable. Frank's with us now. Let me go to Frank and we'll come back to this in just a second, okay? Can you hear me, Frank? Yeah. Yes. Let me see if I got you on here. Bear with me. We practiced this and it was perfect, of course. And now it's not perfect, but
oh dear.
Let's see. There we go. It's good. Yay!
Got it?
Hi, Frank.
All right. Yes. Hello,
I
everybody.
love seeing you. This is so fun. So this is Frank Jernigan, and he has a website called franco.com, and it's spelled PHRANCKO.com. And I'm going to let Frank tell you a little bit about it. Okay, so there you go, Frank.
Well, that's you started with the right thing. We have to get the spelling right.
Oh, did I not spell it right?
No, you did. And I just wanted to reemphasize that it's very difficult to get the spelling right. But I have put it next to my name under my picture here, if you see that.
No, so, yes, they can see it's very little.
It's very little. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it's PH instead of F, RAN, and then CK instead of K, and then O. So it's an alternate spelling that I made up for the name Franco. And the website is franco.com. I am a certified TKGA master knitter as of September 1917. Thank you. I want to tell you a little bit about the website and what it can do and show you some pictures of sweaters that have been knitted both by myself and others from the patterns that you can find there. The website allows you to create a custom fit sweater pattern. It's a plain sweater pattern with 4 variations of collars. And other than that, it's just a plain sweater, which you are welcome to knit as is, and it makes a really nice sweater. And or you can modify it however you want with colors and cables, and you'll see that I've done that quite a bit if you see my patterns in Cast On magazine. Most of my patterns for sweaters in Cast On magazine, which have been appearing every issue for the last 3 years, well, since 2018, that's 3 years, isn't it? Except for the last 2 issues, the one that came out today and the last one was a shawl and a scarf. But I'm going back to sweaters with the next one. Almost all of them, except the very first one, were based on the idea that is what happens at franco.com. It's a new approach to knitting a sweater with the architecture of set-in sleeves. I say it's the architecture because you don't actually set them in with a seam, and you don't set them in by picking up stitches around an armhole. You actually create the sweater, knit it from the top down, and when you get the neck closed from there on, it is knitted in the round. It goes across the front of the shoulder, around the sleeve, across the back, around the other sleeve cap, and across the chest, or in reverse order actually, but it doesn't matter. It goes all the way around both the body and the sleeve caps. What I had, the idea of such an approach was actually published by Barbara Walker in Knitting from the Top. However, she did not do the one enhancement that I did that turned that sleeve cap from a witch's hat shaped sleeve cap to a sleeve cap that is bell shaped. And as you know, if you've knitted a set-in sleeve sweater that is knitted flat, you knit the cap as a bell shape, and that makes it fit better. So I then took that idea, developed a pattern, then I created a website that allows you to enter your measurements and your gauge that you create from your very own swatch, your gauge measurements, and it will calculate a pattern that exactly fits your measurements using that yarn and those needles. That's what the website does. A custom fit sweater that generates patterns that fit you using the yarn and needles you choose, and using this special technique I call Franco's seamless set-in sleeves. There's not a single sleeve anywhere in this sweater. I mean, a seam. There's no seams anywhere. This is not a seam across the top. This is not even a seam along the top of the shoulder, though it looks like one. I just started in one direction and then picked up stitches and started in the other direction. And that's what my pattern leads you to do.
So how long did it take you to develop your computer generated?
Probably 6 months for the first version of it. And I've been working on it ever since. I think it first went live in the fall of 20, was it 2018 or 2019? I don't remember now. I think it might have been
I think it was 18.
Was it 18?
I think.
It was coming live the time you and I went with others to the conference in the Sierras.
Right.
And I was just finishing it up at that conference. I think I showed it to you and a few others and said, this is going to go online soon. Yeah. So it has gained in popularity. It's on Ravelry. It's called a Franco sweater pattern. If you go there, it will tell you to go to the website and it'll tell you about the pattern there. I'd like to show you some examples if yes. I can share my screen.
And if people are TKGA members, you'll see Frank's work in Cast On magazine, every issue.
Let's start with this one. This is a Franco sweater in which I simply changed the yarn I was using to create the appearance of a gradient. It's actually 3 different colorways of yarn that are done in a way that they blend together. And as you see in the bottom, they don't blend quite as well. So anyway, that's the design I created. But the basic knitting pattern is a Franco sweater pattern. And as you see, if you look closely at the sleeves, they are set in. And there is a seam that goes straight down from the shoulder to the armpit. I have a shoulder view of that sweater here, so you can see it better. That's the same sweater. That's what the shoulder looks like. Suzanne, you're able to see these, right?
I see them. Can anybody else see these? Let us know if you can see these.
So that was a crew neck sweater. This is a saddle shoulder sweater, which is also crew neck, but I call it the alternative to the crew neck. It's the saddle shoulder sweater. This was another Franco sweater to begin with, and I simply modified it to add the color. As I said, the patterns you get from the website are just plain. They don't tell you to change colors or anything. You do that on your own. But you can also enjoy just knitting a straight sweater. So that's the saddle shoulder version. Here's what the V-neck version looks like. And here's what the Henley collar looks like. This V-neck sweater, you'll see again in a minute, was knitted by Cindy Dupont, and the Henley sweater was published in Cast On magazine. Here's a t-shirt I knitted straight from the pattern. I just stopped the sleeves short. That's the only difference. Other than that, it's a Franco sweater direct from the website.
Oh, cute!
few sweaters knitted by Cindy Dupont, who's one of my biggest fans and has knitted, I believe, 4 Franco sweaters now. And she's going to be the featured sweater knitter in my next newsletter, which will come out in the next few days. That's the V-neck I showed you before, and also knitted by Cindy. She calls this her workhorse sweater, and she loves it. All of these grandchildren love her sweaters.
I
And
love
this is
that
the
one.
latest one.
That's my favorite one.
It's awesome. She did a Henley, and
So what's
so
cool
she's
about it is the stripes, because it's knit all around. See how those stripes on the arms match perfectly with the body. To do that with a set-in sleeve is not easy. So the advantage of doing Franks here, if you're doing stripes like that, is these automatically match perfectly without any extra effort.
That's right.
So Frank, oh,
Franklin Habit has
yeah.
knitted my sweater, and he loves it. It's a saddle shoulder version, and he has talked about it in several of his recent vlogs. And he has said at the end of the last one that he was going to knit another Franco sweater, and I can't wait for that.
So how do people, you do knit-alongs also. Can you talk about that? Because I think you just have a few more minutes here.
Okay. This was the last one I was going to show. I thought this was a lovely pattern. This person created the neckline and the design around the waist. In 2 weeks, we're going to start a knit-along where anyone who wants to join at that time can start a free baby sweater just to work through the pattern and make sure they understand how to do every step of the pattern. The knit along will last for a few weeks. It meets at 2:30 every Saturday. I have a weekly meeting already set up that will happen at 2:30 today and next week. That is for anybody who is knitting a sweater or wants to talk to people who've knit the sweater or wants to find out more about the sweater, or anybody who's wants to ask questions of me about the sweater. So at 2:30 today and 2:30 next Saturday, there'll just be a regular weekly meeting. And then on the 3rd Saturday, we will start a knit along. And if you want to join again at 2:30, it will be every Saturday for a few weeks. I don't know exactly how long at this point.
So we arranged this so that you can watch my live stream, and then you can go straight from that over to Frank's Zoom and
Yes.
just have a lovely Saturday afternoon every week.
Yes. And you can get the link to the Zoom from the Franco sweater pattern on Ravelry, or the forum that is associated with it. I can tell you the link. I was going to put it in chat, but I realized everybody can't see chat because they're not on
Frank,
Zoom.
can you put it on my Knitting with Suzanne page also?
Okay.
Yeah, just put it on there.
On your Facebook page.
Yeah, on the Facebook page, yeah.
All right, I'll go put it there right after I get off of here.
And then also we can put it in the time stamps after this video is done. We'll put it into the timestamp so people can come back there and look in the timestamps and find the link, okay?
Perfect. Okay. So I hope to see you some in the weekly meeting, and I hope some of you join the knit along in 2 weeks.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for letting me show.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. You have a good afternoon, wonderful. Okay?
You too.
Okay.
I'm sorry I interrupted your meeting. That was
no, it's so fun. So fun.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, let me close that. Oh, no. Okay, so now I want to come back to, there I am. Hi. I lost my output option. So let's go back to looking at my hands now, okay? And what we were talking about here is we were talking about where you're going to put, we had the pocket, and we designed our pocket, and we decided we wanted to put a cable on it. But it's kind of hard, this is knitter's graph paper, to put the cable going sideways like this on the knitter's graph paper. So what I was talking about is breaking it into two sections. So we'll break this part of the pocket into one section, which I drew here, and then take that cable and draw it into another section going straight up the stitches. Then we can put, like we have these lines of purls here, we've got these purls going down the side. And then we've got our cable crossing every so often here. I'm just making this up. And that's how you would knit this. So you would knit over to here and then knit the cable, turn, work this. This is no stitch here. There's no stitch here. So you would skip that. You would work over to here, come here. You would stop. You would just go directly from this stitch to this stitch. You would just ignore this. This is empty space. It doesn't exist. And what this does is it would pull the cable over to the pocket like this, so that you end up, this is exactly how I created this pocket right here. So my decreases, my shaping, run right along here. And this is actually knitted this way. Oops, there's an end that needs to be woven in. So that's how you would make that type of design on your pocket. Now this is like an intarsia cable, but it could be any kind of design. It could be garter stitch along here if you wanted to have a garter stitch edge or seed stitch or anything that you wanted to have. It could be very simple. It doesn't have to be complex like this. So next thing I wanted to talk about is when you have a stitch equivalency problem. And I'm going to, so let's say we have the 5 stitches to the inch, which this is, and we have a certain, design here that we're using on the 5 stitches to the inch. But then we're going to have some cables over here that you're actually getting 6 stitches to the inch instead of 5, and you want to have this life size. In that case, what I would do is print out the knitter's graph paper with 6 stitches to the inch, still with 7 rows. This particular one is 5 stitches and 7 rows. When you put cables in, it does not bring down the row gauge, it only changes the stitch gauge. So then you would cut and tape. I would cut some of the 6 stitches by 7 rows knitter's graph paper and tape it right in here to next to this section here. And then I would tape more, just so whatever your stitch gauge is, I would create that knitter's graph paper and tape it into this so that you have a live picture. I also wanted to show a little bit about how to make your ribbing. So let's say you have your stitch pattern here of your fabric, and let's say that you've got your purls. I'm going to draw in a design here, 1, 2, 3, 4, that we're going to have some cables going up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just making this up. And then let's say we have a little 2 stitch cable. Another 2 stitch cable. And then a 4 stitch cable. So here's our cable crossings. This one's going to cross every right side row like that. This one's going to cross like that. Like there. So now we've got a design. Those are our cable crossings. Okay, how do we figure out the ribbing? We've got purl 2, knit 4, purl 2, knit 4, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 4, purl 2, knit 1. I would bring this straight down. You don't have to have it, your ribbing does not have to be knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, or knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1. It just does not have to be that way. You can make it whatever you want. It's your knitting. But the idea of ribbing, to create a fabric that does not curl at the bottom of your fabric, is you need to have about the same number of knits as you do purls. It does not have to be exact, but about the same. So in this case, I would make my ribbing like this, and it would look fine. And what it would look like is it looks like the cables just emanate from the ribbing. I don't like fabric that looks like this. I'm going to use an extreme. We're going to say a 5-stitch cable. To me, this is very unattractive, but of course you can do whatever you want. But let's say, okay, you've got these cables here, and you've got this gorgeous fabric coming up, and then you do something like knit 2, purl 2 ribbing down here that has absolutely nothing to do with the cable. To me, what that looks like is that you took two pieces of fabric and just taped them together. You seamed them together with no regard to how they're going to mesh together. So you can see this does not mesh with that, whereas this, you can see the flow, how it goes up. Even though these are not all exactly the same, they don't have to be the same. It will look lovely. Whereas over here, it looks like you had this one piece of fabric that's the ribbing, and you cut it off, and then you sewed on this other piece of fabric that has a completely different stitch pattern. It's almost like you took a plaid or stripes and mismatched them on purpose. To me, my eye falls right on this line right here every time. That's all I can see is where it's incongruous. So let me go back to my face, and I'm going to see if you have any questions, okay? So I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to start at the bottom and work up. This is Jerry Rossiter. Question: the top of the pocket's cable seems to want to be perpendicular to the cable, but it's at an angle to the rows of the sweater. Can you comment? Let me get my sweater out. Yes. And go back to that camera. So here we can see what she's talking about. You can see how the fabric bends a little bit here. Can you see that? On the inside of the fabric, it happens to coincide, that bending right here, because see, I have my waist shaping in here. Remember last time I talked about that the waist shaping would go underneath the pocket? The upper waist shaping is here. The lower waist shaping is actually in the lining of the pocket. And that turn, just for this particular situation, happens to coincide with my waist shaping, is where that actually angles up there. But it would angle up anyway. This is just a coincidence. But because knitting is flexible, it does not affect the overall effect of the fabric. It still looks good. And I actually like it because on the edge of your fabric, here where the pocket opening is, you don't want this to be loose and floppy. You want it to lay with the fabric. And because it pulls up there a little bit with the fabric, and it's going pretty much straight here, it keeps this laying nice and flat. Judith Andre says, question, is there a knitter's graph paper that is 7 by 9? I have 6.8 and 5 by 7. Let me see if I can share my screen. I'm going to experiment. Just hold on, hold your horses. Let me go back to my face. And I'm going to find the knitter's graph paper that I use and see if I can share that with you live. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see what happens. Share screen. Oh, you can see it. Cool. That's so cool. I love it. Okay, so let me see here. I wonder if I can make it bigger. Oh, I can. Isn't that cool? Okay, so on this site, and this is TATA-TATAO, and we'll put a link to it down below the video. But right here, I can enter whatever stitch gauge I want. So I'm going to say 6. And you had 6 by 9. Was it 6 by 9? 6 by 8. Oh, you had 7 by 9. Let's put in 7. 7 by 9. And then you can make the lines any thickness you want. I choose 1/4. That gives you life size, and I don't know why. I don't have a good answer for that, but that works. Create. There you go. You have 7 stitches by 9 rows, graph paper. And then you just print it out. Isn't that cool? So you can change it to whatever you want. And I was talking a minute ago, let's say you have 5 by 7. That's what I just used, just as an example. It means nothing. So you create that. And then if you needed to have 6 by 7, you just go over here and change this to 6 by 7, create, and now you've got 6 by 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Isn't that the coolest thing? I use that a lot. But you could also use your spreadsheet. You know, you can use numbers or Excel and do the exact same things. Okay. Connie Nordic says, the pockets in front of the sweaters and pullovers I will adapt to my faves too. I have yarn for all my self-knitted fabrics for in case I've to repair something. I love my experience made here. Thank you. So JV Farmer MC, thank you. The Ravelry group is Franco Sweater Knitters. The link to the Saturday Zoom meeting is on the homepage for the group. The Zoom meeting is at 2:30 Pacific time. Yes, and I highly recommend it. I highly recommend Frank's stuff. Kayan, should we try to add a pocket to the sloper too to make sure pocket size and placement would be good? Absolutely. And you know what I do? Let me back up. This is what I do. I put my garment on, and then I put my hands, let me back up a little bit more. I've got so much stuff in this room. I put my hands where it's comfortable. I have a whole blog post about creating afterthought pockets at knittingsuzanne.com, and I show you exactly that, how I put my hands, I had my garment on, and they're afterthought pockets. I put my hands where it feels comfortable, and that's where I created the pockets. Yes, that's a great idea, Kayan. Sue McVicker. Are the variations made to compensate for cable flare invisible enough that one row to keep this flow from ribbing up? I do cable flare compensation. Let me show you on this sweater. Again, you go to my hands. So up here, you can see, let me get a pointer. This was knitted top down. So there's a column of stitches coming down this way, a column here. So we have, looking at it top down, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's a make one here. So there's a make one here. I increased a stitch here. Actually, I increased 2 stitches right here, and then I incorporated it into this crossing right here, so you really can't even see it. But I increased the stitches. Otherwise, if I hadn't have increased the stitches, this would really pull in this way. And do you see how it's pulling this fabric over? And you would get this puckering here. Of course, this is right where my waist shaping is also. So it's kind of confusing right there, but let's turn it this way. So here's, I increased a stitch right here. There's an increase because I allow it to turn under. So I always add, I do a knit front and back right here, which allows that selvage stitch to turn under, so it makes this nice rolled edge without decreasing the width of my fabric. So there's actually 3 knits here. One that is allowed to curl under. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my cable crossing. Here's a make one right here. I did a make one. Now up here at the other end, then I did the opposite for the cable flare compensation. I wanted to get rid of those extra 2 stitches, and they're easier to see. So there's a knit 2 together here, where I decreased a stitch. There's probably one more. It's probably right there. It is. It's actually in here with the last stitch. So I decreased 2 stitches to get rid of the extra stitches so that when I came down to my ribbing, it doesn't flare sideways. And then this is brioche ribbing. So guess what I needed to do for my brioche ribbing? I needed to swatch it and figure out what needle size I needed to use in order to make it to come straight down from my garment. Okay, let's see if there's any more questions. Let's see, I got Jerry. Connie McKnight says to get vaccinated. I agree. Kay and Tong. Let's see, Mimsy, your sweater's knitted in fingering weight yarn. I knit almost all my sweaters in fingering weight yarn. I like them. Oh, Cindy Dupont, you have to check out her sweaters that she knit for Frank from his patterns. They are just gorgeous. They're absolutely beautiful. Okay, so I think we've got everybody's questions. Does anybody else have any questions? I'll give you a minute. So the next episode of the tutorial will include the waist shaping and the pockets. And you know, we're real soon to just knitting. And the next thing I'm going to talk after pockets is we're going to talk about neck shaping, the front neck shaping, and all the different things that you can do with neck, a placket neck, shawl collar for a cardigan, a shawl collar for a pullover, crew neck, and V-neck. Those are the types of necks that I'm going to talk about. We're really, you know, all of the hard work is almost over. You guys are doing awesome hanging in there. And then we're going to knit. And I'm knitting on mine. And now that I have my new sitting room where I'm going to sit and knit, I might actually get more knitting done. Any other questions? Any comments? Susan Day says, question, Suzanne, have you used Suzanne's pocket on a pullover? Yes, I have. And you can actually make it either as 2 separate pockets, or you can make it as a kangaroo pocket. You can do it either way. Oh, I wanted to also mention, and Deborah, Mountain Mom, says on Tato, you can also use fractions of stitches and gauge to 4 inches. That's exactly right. And Margaret Snook says, tip for knitter's graph paper. I don't have a printer, so I have to do a PDF and import it directly into Knit Companion. Yay. You know, we've talked about grading patterns, and I always tell you I'm not real good at that. But there's a really, really good resource that I need to mention, and that is sistermountain.com. She has a blog, and she is the most amazing teacher. She's on maternity, not maternity. She had a baby, and so she's taking like 6 months off. But go back through her blog, and it's extraordinarily educational. In fact, she just talked about set-in sleeves. And she talks about grading, designing, all that kind of stuff. She's a wonderful resource. So check that out. That's called sistermountain.com. And let's see, anything else? Judith Andres says, if I don't want any ribbing, how does the lower edge not roll? Then you need to use some sort of stitch pattern. Now, in fingering weight yarn, I don't get as much roll because it just is a little bit drapier. I've also used, I do a couple of things. One is I'll work like 2 rounds of reverse stockinette. So you cast on, work 2 rounds of reverse stockinette, and then switch to your stitch pattern. It gives you a little roll, a finished edge. It looks really, really nice. Another thing you can use is an I-cord cast on, but I-cord cast on, if you've watched my videos, I have a whole series of videos on I-cord. One of them is I-cord cast on always leaves you with the first row, or what appears to be the first row, of very enlarged stitches. So if I'm going to put an I-cord on the bottom of a sweater and knit bottom up, I use a provisional cast on, knit the garment, then come back and do an I-cord bind off. And that also helps prevent a roll. Another thing you can do is just 1 or 2 rows of knit 1, purl 1 ribbing doesn't show, or you can use seed stitch and you can use garter stitch. Oh, questions on Ravelry. Thank you, Diana. You guys know I'm like totally brain frazzled with my house being this way, but let me take a look. Thank you. Let's see. Energize questions for the May 1st. So Diane Joel says, I have a question regarding what gauge to use when I transfer my schematic to knit or scrap paper, and I just talked about that. And she also says, in calculating the armscye for my sweater, I was not confident it would fit into the armhole, so I took a long sleeve t-shirt that I know fits me well and cut the arm out to see how it would match up to my sleeve pattern. I found that it was about 2.5 inches shallower from the top to the bottom of the sleeve cap than what I came up with my sweater. What should I do? It has to do with the stretchability of the fabric. It has to do with the knitted fabric versus you're going to be knitting. And I don't think that it's going to make very much difference at all, to be quite honest with you. It has to do, the angle that the sleeve is going to come into the body has to do with the ease. The more ease you have, the more angled it's going to be. The less ease you have, the more direct the sleeve's going to be. So in relationship to the body. So you can see if this is a tube and it came straight up like this as a tube, that the circumference is going to be the same as the circumference of the tube, right? The sleeve tube. If you come straight to the body, that circumference is going to be a circle, the same as the circumference of the sleeve. As you tilt the sleeve down, the circumference of the sleeve cap gets greater and greater. So the more you tilt the sleeve down, the larger the sleeve cap's going to be in relationship to the sleeve. Does that make sense? It's like you're cutting through this tube, the tube. If you cut through it diagonally, this edge is going to get bigger and bigger. But it doesn't affect the tube. Do you see what I'm saying? The tube is staying the same. So I think you're going to be fine. I think you'll be fine. Any other questions? It's a little bit of a short day today, not quite an hour, just under an hour, but I've covered all the information that I want to cover. I hope you choose to go and visit with Frank. He would really appreciate your business. And we'll see you back here next week. Okay, and for the people starting Bootcamp 1, it's going to be exciting. So we'll see you next time, okay? Happy knitting. Have a good day.